Okay, so the last step in the physical construction is to create the reflector for the Transilluminator. There are several ways you could do this. Our prototype actually uses a reflector that was constructed out of sheet metal. However, the actual reflector itself is just a white cardstock. And you can actually make the entire reflector out of cardstock, and that's a really simple solution. We'll probably go ahead and provide a 3D printed reflector that you could print. You'll still need to use a piece of cardstock for the actual white part of the reflector, but you can make a really fairly robust reflector just out of cardstock. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do here. So this is the reflector file, which you can just print onto a piece of fairly heavy cardstock. So definitely use the thickest stuff that you can actually fit in your printer. The file has a series of lines. So the dashed lines are where you're going to fold it, and then there's two gray areas that you actually have to cut out. So we're going to cut out this section here. This is remove, and then we're going to trim along the white edges, and then there's a gray line here which we also want to cut. And you cut right there. Okay, and then we're going to remove this gray section that in the file, if you print it on a color printer, it's actually red. So you can so cut this and get rid of it. Alright. And then we're just going to trim the edges here. Okay, along the dotted lines, and then the bottom. Try to keep this graded circle clean. This is the actual reflector, so don't get that dirty. Okay. The other thing is there's these 4 holes here. These are the screw holes that will hold the reflector onto the robot. So go ahead and take a punch, or I'm just going to use these dissecting scissors here to poke holes where those white circles are. Okay, and now so what we need to do is just fold along the dashed lines. So okay. And then once you have that part complete, just go ahead and take a piece of tape, lab tape or whatever, and just run along this edge to tape this together. Okay, so that's the hard part. The last step is to put about a 30-degree angle bend in the actual reflector. You can optimize this later once you actually have the reflector on the robot and you have some worms in wells to actually look at them. So you can make sure you get the angle right so that the optics look best. But about 30 degrees is about what you want. So I'll go ahead and bend that slightly. Okay. You can see now that's about like that. Okay. So now what we're going to do is take this over to the robot and mount it on the Transilluminator arm. Okay. So to mount the reflector onto the Transilluminator arm, we need obviously the reflector. We also need two 40mm M4 screws and then nuts. So you just take the back end of the reflector, slip it over the light, and then slide it back to the last in this series of 4 holes at the end of the arm. Okay, and line up the holes just like that. Then simply install the screws. Make sure you have things lined up first. And then just tighten the nuts on. Obviously, since you're holding on a piece of paper, it just doesn't have to be super strong, but just make sure it won't move anywhere.